You ever had that feeling like something in your world just shifted? Like reality glitched for a second, but only you noticed? What if the one person we all trust to save the world, the Man of Steel himself, started seeing things no one else could? What if he couldn't tell what's real anymore? What if we couldn't either? Stay with me, because this story isn't just about Superman. It's about trust, identity, and what happens when your greatest enemy isn't out there, flying or crawling or plotting, but right inside your own mind. This isn't your typical superhero tale. This is a psychological unraveling of the world's most powerful man. You came here for answers, and I promise, by the end of this video, you'll get the truth. But only if you stay all the way through, because each moment is a puzzle piece that fits into a picture you didn't even know existed. Let's be real for a second. You didn't click on this video by accident. Something in you wants to know, how does the strongest man alive, or not from kryptonite, but from within himself? You're here because that question hooks something in your brain. Maybe it's because you're like me, drawn to the deeper side of heroes, the part no comic book ever really talks about. We look at Superman and see invincibility. But what happens when his perception of truth breaks? What happens when the symbol of hope starts to question everything? His mission, his memories, even his sanity. And if Superman can lose his grip on reality, what does that mean for the rest of us? This story begins on a night unlike any other. Not because of a villain's grand plan or an alien invasion. No. This time, the threat wasn't external. It started quietly, like a whisper in a hurricane. The world was calm. Metropolis was sleeping. Lois Lane was home. Clark Kent was fine. Until he wasn't. Something snapped, or maybe slipped. A memory surfaced that he swore never existed. A face he recognized, but couldn't place. A message only he could hear. And that's where the mystery begins, not with action, but with a thought, a doubt, the smallest crack in the strongest mind. And that's what makes this story terrifying. It's not about explosions or battles. It's about questioning what you see, what you remember, what you believe. Superman's biggest threat isn't Lex Luthor or Darkseid. It's the voice in his head whispering, none of this is real. Now, I want to pause for a moment and talk to the viewer. I know there are thousands of videos out there you could be watching right now. Breakdowns, theories, animations, shorts, but you're here, watching this. And that matters. That tells me you want more than a surface level plot. You want to feel something. You want a story that makes you think, that twists your brain in the best kind of way. That's what I'm giving you here. Not just a story, but an experience. The kind that keeps you up at night replaying scenes in your head. The kind that forces you to hit rewind. Because you missed something . That's why I'm telling you this right now. Don't skip ahead. Don't click away. Everything from this point on builds. One scene, one clue, one revelation at a time. If you miss a second, you'll miss the truth. So if you're ready to unlock the mind of Superman, you have to commit, fully. Let's talk about atmosphere for a second. This isn't set in the bright, hopeful tones you're used to. This version of Metropolis feels off. Familiar buildings look distorted. Familiar voices sound different. Everything is a little too quiet. And in the middle of that quiet stands Clark Kent, alone, unsure, staring at a reflection that doesn't quite match what he remembers. He's waking up in places he doesn't recognize. People he trusts, Lois, Perry White, even Batman, are saying things that don't line up with what he knows or thinks he knows. He's losing time. He's hearing things. And worst of all, he's starting to believe that the world around him might not be real. That it never was. Now here's where it gets tricky. Because you, the audience, will start to feel what he's feeling. I'm not just telling you this story, I'm pulling you into it. You'll see what he sees, hear what he hears, Feel the tension building in your chest, the way he does when everything starts slipping. This isn't about watching Superman save the day. This is about watching him question if the date even exists. And once you're in that headspace, once you're seeing the world through his fractured perspective, nothing will feel safe. Not the Daily Planet, not the Fortress of Solitude, not even his own memories. I know right now you might be wondering, is this a dream? Is someone manipulating him? Did something happen in the past that's resurfacing now? Those are all good questions, and you will get answers, but not yet, right now. I want you to sit with the discomfort. Feel the slow unraveling, because that's how Superman feels, and for the first time in his life, he doesn't have control. He doesn't know what's coming next, and neither do you. Let's set up the key players. Lois Lane, his anchor to reality. But lately, she's been saying things that don't add up. She remembers a version of Clark's childhood that he doesn't. And when he confronts her, her face shifts, just for a moment, into something unrecognizable. Is it a trick of the mind, or is she part of something larger? Then there's Bruce Wayne, someone Clark has always trusted to keep him grounded. But Bruce is distant, cautious, watching Clark like he's a threat. And there's a reason for that. Because deep in the Batcave, Bruce has a file, a secret one. And in it are surveillance clips, glitches in the feed, where Clark does things, unexplainable things. Things that never happened, or shouldn't have. So what's going on? Is Superman being controlled? Has something from another universe slipped through the cracks? Is he remembering a different timeline? Or is this something more primal, more human? Is it trauma? Is it grief? Is it his mind turning against him after years of carrying the weight of the world? This is where the things start to unfold. Identity, sanity, the fragility of memory. You might not have super strength, but I bet you've questioned your reality at some point. I bet there's a moment in your past that feels like it doesn't fit. A detail that seems off. A face you remember too clearly, though you swear you never met them. That's the zone we're in now. The twilight between truth and fiction. And that's what makes this story hit different. It doesn't just live in the comic book pages. It lives in asterisk, in the human brain, in the places we don't talk about. And that's why you need to keep watching. Because as this story unfolds, you'll start seeing reflections of yourself in Superman's descent. So here's the question I'll leave you with, for now. What if everything Superman ever believed about Krypton, about Earth, about was a lie? What if the real villain isn't a who, but a fracture, a virus, a false memory planted so deep, he can't separate fact from illusion? And here's the real kicker. What if the final twist isn't just about him? What if this whole story is part of reality too? What if by watching this, you're already part of it, Don't go anywhere. Because the next part, that's when things really start to crack. It started with a name, Kara. A whisper in the night, a fragment in Superman's sleep. He'd wake up sweating, fists clenched, heart pounding in his ears. He couldn't place it. The name echoed like a familiar song you can't quite remember the lyrics to, but the moment he asked Lois about it, everything shifted. Her eyes went blank for half a second, like someone had hit pause, and then she smiled and said, "You don't have a cousin, Clark." The air in the room turned heavy. Something in his chest tightened. He knew she was wrong. He didn't know how or why, but he knew that name meant something. The next day, he found a photograph in the attic of the Kent farmhouse, half burned, buried under old boxes. It was a girl, blonde, blue-eyed, standing next to him as a teen. The edges were faded, but the signature on the back said it clearly. To Cal. Love, Kara. That's when he knew something was wrong. Deeply, fundamentally wrong. And that's when he stopped trusting anyone. Clark wasn't the only one noticing glitches. In Gotham, Bruce Wayne had been tracking a series of anomalies, bursts of unexplained energy readings, concentrated around Metropolis. At first, he suspected an alien threat, maybe a hidden Kryptonian enemy manipulating reality. But what unnerved Bruce most wasn't the energy itself, it was the timestamps. Each spike in energy matched a behavioral shift in Superman, a late-night rescue that never happened, a building collapse that was never reported, footage from security cams showing Clark standing still, staring into nothing for hours. No response to his communicator, no memory of being there. Bruce, ever the detective, started digging deeper, and what he found was a file buried in STR Labs' restricted archives, marked Project TM dated before Superman ever came to Earth. Impossible, right? Except the file listed a subject called Kal-El*. Meanwhile, the people of Metropolis started noticing strange things too. A child claimed Superman saved her from drowning in the East River, but that river had been drained for construction for months. A group of paramedics swore he lifted a collapsed tunnel during a downtown quake, except there was no record of any quake. A broadcast station's footage glitched during a live report showing Superman flying, but his suit was black and his eyes glowed red. Just for a second. Then everything went back to normal, but the clip made its way online, and theories started exploding. Is Superman being mind-controlled? Is this the real Superman, or a clone? Multiverse glitch. The keyword Superman false reality theory began trending. Reddit forums lit up. YouTube was flooded with breakdowns and explainer videos, but the truth was far more disturbing than any theory. Clark, meanwhile, was spiraling. His dreams had become a prison. Each night, he lived different lives. In one, he was a farmer who never became Superman. In another, he was raised by Zod, leading invasions. And in some, he wasn't even Kryptonian, just a man in a suit, pretending. Each dream ended the same way, with a mirror. A version of himself looking back and whispering, "You're the Lee." He began to question whether he ever was Superman, or if the identity was placed in him like a program. That's when he stopped flying, stopped saving people. He needed answers. So he turned to someone he never thought he'd need, Lex Luthor. Lex, of course, didn't act surprised. In fact, he seemed prepared. He offered Clark a seat, poured him a glass of wine, and said something chilling. Took you long enough to notice. He spoke about timelines, about memory implants, psychological triggers, and a hidden architecture underneath reality itself. Lex claimed the truth wasn't that Superman had lost touch with reality. It was that reality had been constructed around him. That someone, or something, had built a world for Kal-El, layer by layer, moment by moment. A stage, a prison, and the twist. Lex wasn't the one who built it. He was just smart enough to see the edges. Elsewhere, a new subplot was brewing. Deep within the Phantom Zone, a figure stirred. Not Zod, not Brainiac, but someone older, someone forgotten. They called him the Architect. A being capable of weaving illusions so real they could house entire civilizations. Legends said he had been trapped for manipulating the minds of whole worlds, bending belief into reality. And somehow, faint signals from Earth had begun to awaken him. It's hinted that Clark's dreams, the anomalies, the cracks, were all symptoms of a deeper awakening. That perhaps this architect hadn't been fully imprisoned. That perhaps he was already inside Superman's mind. Lois, meanwhile, was fighting her own war. She had started recording her conversations with Clark, comparing them day by day. She noticed small differences. How he said good morning, how he folded his arms, how his voice dropped when he said her name. She confronted Bruce, demanded the truth, but Bruce only said one thing: he's not consistent. The phrase haunted her. She began to wonder if the man in her home, her husband, the father of her child, was even Clark Kent anymore, or if he had ever been. And yet, every time she looked into his eyes, she wanted to believe. That's the hardest part, belief. Meanwhile, hidden in the shadows, someone else was watching. Martian Manhunter. John had sensed distortions in Superman's mind long before anyone else. He tried to reach out telepathically, only to be met with walls. Not natural defenses. These were artificial blocks, complex structures designed to repel psychic entry. He traced the blocks back to an old Kryptonian symbol, one that hadn't been used since the time of Rao. It was a glyph that meant silence. A psychic gag. The implications were staggering. Who would want to silence Superman's mind? And more importantly, why now ? The world was beginning to sense it, even if they couldn't explain it. Birds flying in circles. Technology glitching. Dreams overlapping. People waking up with memories that didn't belong to them. A man in Chicago who swore he remembered living in Krypton. A woman in Seattle who drew the S shield in her sleep, perfectly, without knowing what it was. Something was happening. A bleed between worlds. And Clark was the center of it. Yet in all this, Clark remained quiet. He walked the streets as Clark Kent, trying to feel normal, trying to touch a world that increasingly felt fake. He went back to Smallville, the Kent farmhouse. He stood in the barn, looking out at the fields. The wind felt real. The earth smelled right. But then, a boy ran past him, a boy who looked just like he did at 10 years old. The boy didn't see him, just kept running, laughing, into nothing. Then gone, Clark dropped to his knees. Something was wrong with time, with memory, with everything. And now, the key question hangs in the air. Not just for Superman, but for all of us. If your entire reality is a story, who's the storyteller ? And more importantly, what happens when they stop writing? The next chapter is coming, and you're not ready for what's behind the curtain. The wind in Smallville had always brought Clark peace, but this time it carried something else. A sound that wasn't a sound, a pulse in the back of his skull that seemed to throb with every beat of his heart. The longer he stood in the barn, the more the world around him felt like a photograph slowly burning from the edges. Colors faded, sounds muted. The hay smelled artificial, too clean, like a memory trying too hard to be real. And then came the voice, not out loud, but inside his head, clear and terrifying. You're not supposed to be here, Kal-El. It wasn't threatening. It was sad. Like someone mourning a broken toy. Clark turned, but there was no one. Only the reflection in the mirror across the room. And in that reflection, he wasn't alone. Behind him stood his younger self, silent, still, and crying. Back in Metropolis, the world was beginning to fall apart in quiet ways. People who had claimed to see Superman were starting to disappear. Journalists digging too deep found their files corrupted, footage erased, sources gone. One by one, they vanished, without struggle, without trace. Lawyers, refusing to back down, tracked down one last surviving whistleblower from Stellar Labs, an old technician who hadn't left his apartment in years. He spoke in fragments, eyes wide, hands trembling. We weren't building tech, we were building *layers, memories. Lives, moments. Every time he doubted, they told us to paint over it. He's not crazy. He's trapped. Then he screamed and clawed at his own head before lawyers could even ask what the * meant. Police later found his room empty. No signs of forced entry. Just a single phrase etched into the wall. Code red. Identity shift *. Meanwhile, Bruce began working with Cyborg, who uncovered something buried deep in the Watchtower's archives. Encrypted logs recorded by Martian Manhunter months earlier. Never shared. The logs revealed that John had traced the psychic blocks, not just to a Kryptonian origin, but something beyond space-time. A rift. A fracture in the multiverse, one deliberately created to isolate a single version of Kal-El. But why? And by whom? Cyborg's systems began glitching the moment they accessed the files. His body seized up, screaming in binary. When he rebooted, he whispered one thing that chilled Bruce to his core. The code is evolving, rewriting me. It was clear now that this wasn't just a threat to Clark. It was a virus, a living construct infecting not just minds, but machines, memories, entire timelines. In the Phantom Zone, the architect stirred more violently. His prison had begun to weaken, not because someone was freeing him, but because Superman's unraveling mind was inviting him in. The deeper Clark questioned his own truth, the stronger the architect became, and this was the twist no one saw coming. It wasn't that Clark had been manipulated into a fake world. It was that he had built it himself subconsciously, as a child, as a defense mechanism. The architect didn't create the prison. He merely discovered it and made it his own. The world Clark knew, his parents, the League, Lois, even Earth itself, was a layered construct to contain the trauma of something far older, far darker. Something buried deep inside the Kryptonian genome. Something even the House of El had tried to erase. Clark hadn't been sent to Earth just to survive. He had been exiled to for Jet The audience in our world, the YouTube viewers, would now be feeling the full weight of the unraveling mystery. The search term Superman memory loss explained was trending alongside multiverse corruption theory. And fans were flooding comment sections, trying to piece together what they just heard. The question had shifted from what's happening to what is Superman hiding from himself and that's where the real danger began to build. Lois received an encrypted message late at night, a distorted video showing Clark in full Superman gear, standing in the Fortress of Solitude, speaking a language she had never heard. Behind him, Kryptonian glyphs pulsed with red light, forming patterns that twisted into human shapes. At the end of the video, Superman turned to the camera, eyes hollow, and said, "This is not your story, this is your ending." Then the feed cut out. The location was untraceable, but the timestamp, it was dated 2 weeks in the future All the pieces were collapsing inward. The Justice League began reporting inconsistencies in their own memories. Flash swore he remembered fighting beside Kara Zor-El. Diana recalled meeting a young Kryptonian girl during a battle in Themyscira, but the official League logs showed nothing. Zero records. It was as if Kara had been cut from reality, surgically removed and replaced with silence. But even silence leaves echoes. Superman's subconscious had been bleeding her image back into his dreams. And now that he was remembering, reality itself was starting to push back. The architect wasn't just invading Clark's mind anymore. He was starting to break out And in the depths of the fortress, something ancient was awakening. A vault sealed by Jor-El himself, never meant to open. But now, it pulsed with a warning light, not a message. A countdown. Time was running out, and the closer Clark got to the truth, the more unstable everything became. Cities flickered. People paused mid-sentence. The sun blinked, just for a moment. Like the world was buffering. Superman was nearing the edge, and when he crossed it, there would be no going back. But just before he could open the vault, someone stepped out from the shadows. A woman, eyes glowing with the light of dying stars. Her voice cracked like thunder. And all she said was, "Kal-El, they lied to you about me. You don't want to miss what comes next, because the secret she carries, it will tear the universe apart." The moment she stepped into the pale Kryptonian light, everything inside Clark felt like it stopped spinning. He had known her, somehow, faint flashes of memories buried so deep, they felt like dreams layered beneath other dreams. Her presence wasn't hostile, but it carried weight, like she had waited lifetimes just to say what needed to be said now. "I'm not your enemy," she said softly, but her voice echoed across the crystalline walls like it came from a much older world. "I'm your sister." Clark's knees weakened. All the years of solitude, of believing he was the last, of building an identity around being alone, it all cracked like glass. She was the missing piece, not a cousin, not a clone. A biological sister born in secret, hidden from the council after a prophecy foretold one L-child would destroy the Kryptonian line by unleashing a force too powerful to contain. Kal-El wasn't the chosen one to save Krypton. He was the one to erase its final sins. And she had been locked away to protect him from remembering too soon. The vault was never designed to protect Earth from what lay inside. It was to protect Clark from himself, his powers, his memories, and the reality around him had been carefully shaped by the Architect, a psychic parasite that once infected Krypton's core AI, feeding off thought and identity. When Jor-El launched Clark to Earth, he encoded a failsafe, a neural prison, to contain the Architect within Clark's subconscious. But over time, the Architect found cracks, gaining strength every time Clark's mind doubted its own reality. And when Clark began questioning his life, his past, and even the people around him, the Architect began feeding again, warping timelines, deleting people, rewriting facts. He wasn't being betrayed by others. He was being betrayed by the part of himself that was never truly his. That's why Kara vanished. That's why Lois files disappeared. That's why the Justice League's memories frayed like old film reels. Clark had unknowingly been fighting his own mind, weaponized by something that could only exist through his belief in a lie. And now, standing before the vault with his sister by his side, Clark made the choice he had avoided for years. He opened it. The room filled with blinding white light, not destructive but cleansing. The Architect screamed, a psychic roar that echoed through dimensions, realizing too late that the final layer of the mind prison was truth itself. With the vault open, the fragmented memories surged back into Clark like a flood. He saw Kara again, alive and fighting beside him on a different Earth, one he'd forgotten. He saw his parents not just launching him from Krypton, but crying as they erased part of his mind to save him from the Architect's reach. He saw Lois meeting his sister once, briefly, before that reality was overwritten. The pain of those buried memories hit like a wave, but with them came clarity, purpose, power not just to move mountains, but to rebuild the world inside himself. In one final confrontation inside the psychic realm, a collapsing mirror dimension where the Architect clung to its last fragments of control, Clark stood tall, not as Superman, not as an alien savior, but as a man who finally understood himself. "I don't fear the truth anymore," he said, his voice echoing like thunder in a storm. The Architect twisted itself into a dozen versions of his past, trying to manipulate him, but each illusion shattered against the strength of Clark's will. With one final pulse of energy, fueled by love, memory, and acceptance, he broke the Architect's hold. Reality snapped back into place. Kara reappeared. The world stabilized. The countdown in the fortress stopped at 0 and faded. But just when everything seemed to settle, one last twist emerged. In the restored timeline, as Clark stood on the rooftop of the Daily Planet, now whole again, he noticed something odd in the sky. Not a ship, not a meteor, but a tear. A thin vertical line, dark and motionless, like a crack in the fabric of existence itself. His sister walked beside him, eyes narrowed. "It's not over," she whispered. That wasn't the Architect's doing. And then came the sound again, the first one Clark had heard in the barn. That pulsing, but this time it wasn't inside his head. It was in the sky, echoing from a place beyond multiverses. Something was watching. Something ancient. Something waiting. The real enemy hadn't even begun its game yet, and that's where we end, for now. A journey into the mind, into identity, memory, and the very nature of reality. This story wasn't about Superman losing himself. It was about finding the courage to face the hardest truth of all, that sometimes the person you think you are is just the version of yourself you built to survive. Breaking that illusion takes more strength than lifting any building or stopping any villain. It takes confronting fear with truth, grief with love, and betrayal with understanding. And in that moment, Superman didn't just win, he evolved. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories of inner strength and resilience. Until next time, stay strong, stay brave, and never forget your worth.